Hi, it's Paul Smith from 8 Days a Week Recording Studio, and I'm really excited today because I'm here with a guy named Glenn Coleman. Glenn Coleman has been involved in the music business on the equipment side for many, many years, and he makes a bevy of products, a list of products that audio professionals use every day, including bands like the Rolling Stones and Aerosmith and touring groups and recording studios. And I'm excited to have Glenn here today so we can just chat about a couple things. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So one thing I wanted to ask you, here at 8 Days a Week, we have a late 70s MCI 428B console. And when I first met you at NAMM, I found out that you probably worked on that console or probably built that console.
Yes, that's true. I worked at MCI during the 70s. I started in 1973, and I was in the console checkout department doing the final specs on the 400, 428 at the time, and then the late 428B that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And then they brought in the 500 series, and then later the 600 series. So for the first 2 or 3 years, I did the final specs on all those consoles.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got moved into the service department, and I would go out and fix them or commission them when they first were installed.
They're incredible sounding boards, and one thing that I love about having the console here in this modern age of computers is that it imparts a certain sound. And you're a fan of that sound, and so much so that all of your equipment really harkens back to that era of MCI equipment.
Yes. Less is more.
Mm-hmm.
I try to make most of my designs passive if I can. And then if I can't, because you need a talkback circuit or a cue system or something like that, then I fall back on my MCI training, and a lot of the circuits that I have came out of those consoles.
So, for me, that history of recording, I love to produce music, I love playing music, but I also love the history of where this equipment came from. And you spent a lot of time in Florida at MCI, and the MCI testing lab, so to speak, was Criteria Studios.
Yes.
And Criteria produced all kinds of records, but notably Eagles Hotel California, and we had Fleetwood Mac Rumors, and
so many.
so many
Leonard Skinner, all
the Leonard Skinner records, Bee Gees,
Stills and Nash,
yeah.
the Bee Gees, all the Bee Gees. I heard Staying Alive before it was Staying Alive, which was quite a feat because it was sounding so good. I thought it was a finished product, but it was in the mixing stages. With Tommy Dowd working at Criteria, he had come down from Atlantic, and Mac Emmerman was the owner, and they just had a good run there through the 80s and the 70s and 80s, and even today. Now Hit Factory owns them now, but it was a terrific time in the recording industry.
You have a brand new product, and I have one piece of Coleman audio gear in our control room, and it's a speaker switcher. And it may sound very simple, but it's very important to be able to switch between different speakers to listen to your mixes and the instruments. And you really need to rely on that, and it can't sound different between each different circuit. So I'm grateful to have that. So you have a brand new piece of equipment called the
CA500 EQ.
The CA500 EQ.
Yeah, it's a stereo equalizer. It's 4 bands. It was in the JH500 series consoles, and it's an exact replica of that. I guess what would they call it?
Yeah.
I went to great lengths to make it as close or better. I used a little bit better capacitors on some of the high-end circuits. And I added a few little things like an input trim and an output trim, since it's a piece of output gear, not in a console itself. But yes, it's brand new. It's only been out for 2 months. And
we were just kind of putting it through its paces a little bit earlier, and when you have a beautiful sounding EQ and it's doing all the things you just expect it to do, it's just a joy to hear that. There are so many records that have been made on these consoles, and to be, as far as I know, you can't really buy an MCI outboard preamp. Preamps are the rage, and EQs are the rage, in a 500 series or a 19-inch rack series.
Well, the only way is if somebody took some modules and hacked them up. I mean, and that happens, but it's not. There's only so many of those.
Right.
And then you run out of modules. So a lot of the people keep them in the consoles and they sell the whole console. They don't really go after the modules themselves.
Yeah. Have you shown people this EQ and gotten reactions yet? It's still kind of in the early stages, just getting it out.
Just a few. I took it out to GearFest at Sweetwater, and it got a really positive response.
Yeah.
And I've shown it to a few. I live in Long Island now, and I showed it to a few of the friends that I have my own testing ground called Cloud9 Recording. They loved it, but it was in a cardboard box at the time. I always take everything out there just to make sure that it sounds good in a real studio. And a friend of mine, Ken Wallace, also checked it out, and a few other people.
Mm-hmm. One thing I love about MCI consoles, or my 400 series, is it just feels like you are, the detented knobs, the way it's engineered. When you're using your EQ that you brought today, it just feels like a great piece of equipment, and it's just a pleasure to be able to then go back and have those exact settings because of the
step
switches. So thank you for bringing that today. It's very, very musical sounding, and I'm glad you brought it to us today so we could check it out. And
my pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Are we done?
That's it.